All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the DVO Show, and I'm here with the Mighty Agnot, Nela.
How you guys doing?
How you doing, brother?
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me here and being a part of this. When you reached out to me, man, I was very, very excited to come on and be a part of the podcast, man.
Oh, I thank you so much for your time and coming out here. I'm super excited. I'm a big fan of your music. If you guys don't know, we're going to get into that a little bit, but Nela plays and records some amazing music. Anywhere from even like gospel related to reggae to R&B and anything in between almost, right?
I try, man. Anything, man. I try my best.
No, it's good. We'll get into where people can find you towards the end, but right now, tell us, how did you get into music? Like, are you from a music family background?
So, I think what it is, Polynesians, they have a lot of interest in a lot of things. But if you talk to a Polynesian person, there's three things you can always talk to them about if you relate to them about food. Obviously, we love food.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
I know, man. And then the other thing being sports. A lot of athletes in the Polynesian community. And then the other thing is music. Everybody in the Polynesian community, and they'll all say, "Oh, I can't sing," or "I can't." Everybody sings. Everybody plays something.
That's awesome.
It's just for whatever. I think it's just part of our DNA, man. Music is a big part, and so that's kind of. It was kind of, born with it,
Okay. I mean, you're gifted, brother. You're gifted.
Oh, man. I appreciate it, man.
For real.
I know a lot more gifted people out there, promise you, man. A lot more gifted people out there, man.
How did it start for you that you just heard someone singing, you heard like a song you enjoyed? Do you even remember? Does it go way back to your roots or what?
So family function, a lot of family functions. I saw the podcast that you did with Buddha, and he talked about drinking kava.
Right.
And so one of the big things when you're drinking kava is everybody's playing. They're playing music.
Yeah.
And he talked about it too on his podcast. He loves to listen to music as he's drinking kava. And growing up in California, that's kind of what the community did. They would have their kava sessions, and as a kid, I'd just be sitting there listening to people playing their guitars or their ukes or whatever instrument that they have, and they're playing. And I'd be the kid in the corner just sitting and listening.
Okay.
Really just listen. That's really where the music for me. Everybody in my family, they're all dancers.
Okay.
My sisters, my brother, my parents, they danced at the Polynesian Culture Center.
Did they really?
Yeah, man. For whatever reason, man, that's the one talent I didn't get, man. I got 2 left feet, man.
I'm gonna be there in a couple months, so
that's what's up, man. That's what's up. And so for me, it was really the music route as opposed to the dancing route. And like I said, all my cousins, there's musicians all in my family. More importantly, the community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what part of California did you grow up in?
I grew up in San Diego, California.
I knew that. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah. 619.
I love San Diego. I know we're both Charger fans.
Oh, yeah, man.
I'm a San Diego Charger fan.
Me too. I'm a Charger.
Yeah, I'm not an LA Charger fan. I don't know. I'm slowly converting. This season was a good season.
It was a good season
until the last game, obviously.
Unfortunately, man.
Patriots put a spanking on us, but
I didn't see that coming, man. To be honest,
the playoffs.
No, I didn't. I didn't. I thought San Diego was going to go into to New England and put a smack in them.
Oh, I did too, actually.
I thought it was either going to be a really close game, and the Patriots win on a really close game, or we just blow them out. But man,
that's exactly what I thought.
I did not think they were going to come in.
Oh, it was hard.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
So who are you going for now that the Chargers are out? Who are you going for?
Speaking honestly, I haven't really gotten into the NFL. It's been several years, but I've always had come out of the Chargers. But I think I'd like to see New Orleans.
Me too.
Yeah, that's for my man Sean Kojima, who's out there.
That's our boy.
Who that?
He's a Saints fan. Also, Drew Brees came from San Diego Chargers. So there's a connection there.
Yeah, there's a lot of. So I want to see. I want to see a New Orleans win.
I'm with you. So San Diego, you grew up. Do you like kava?
Actually, it's been years, man. It's been years, but when I was back in the days, it was definitely something that I enjoyed doing for the music aspect of it. Not necessarily for the drinking part of it, but the music, I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it, man. It was like, comedians go to open mic night, that type of situation. For me, going to a kava circle, I would be able to listen to people, and the my uncles, they play everything. Yeah. They play, they play blues music. They played contemporary music. They played all kinds. I mean, my uncle, one day he was singing and in my mind, going to Carol, Carol, and I thought that was his song. I didn't realize that,
okay.
James Taylor wrote that song, and that's how I fell in love with James Taylor, and the whole singer-songwriter thing. And so that really, really helped me as far as that's concerned.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So did you just grab an instrument and start playing naturally then?
So in my house we had a uke, and my dad.
Okay.
That was the very first instrument that I learned how to play was that.
Oh, nice.
And so I think for most...
Damn, I wish you would have brought it now.
I know, man. The thing is I think for most people in the Polynesian community, that's probably the first instrument any kid picks up and plays is the uke. Because everyone has one, and it's really easy. It's a lot easier than picking up a guitar.
Right.
It's not 6 strings, only 4 strings. And
okay.
So for a kid, it's easier to get their hands around.
Well, that makes sense,
something like that. But yeah.
So you just started playing with it?
Just started playing. My dad started teaching me chords, and then... From there, I started picking up, and I take my little uke to the sessions, and I kind of watch people, and see with their hands, and my uncles and my cousins, and everybody would just kind of give me a little bit of their knowledge and help me to understand.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you just started jamming out. I like how you compared the kava circles to like a stand-up open mic night. It's just everyone just kind of gets on and just kind of does their thing.
Because it's non-threatening, man. Right. It really is, man. It's non-threatening. You get there. People show love. People aren't going to boo you. At least I hope they don't. But they're not going to boo you. You get there, you. So as I got older and I got into college and stuff, I'd go to these kava sessions and I would play songs that I write and kind of get feedback and see if people liked it.
Oh,
and
then,
at that time, when I first started with that, I formed this group called Pauhana many moons ago.
In California?
Yeah, in California. And long story short, all the songs that I was playing at in the kava circle eventually became the first album. And so that's kind of how it worked. And so I would go to the kava circles in California or here in Utah or in Texas or wherever it may be.
Okay.
And I just tried my songs. If people liked it, I was like, oh, okay, I think I got something going on here.
Nice.
And eventually just put them all together and created this album called Return with Honor. So,
dude, that's awesome, man. Yeah. So what brought you out to Utah then?
So I served in LDS mission, and I was in Panama, and I think...
You speak Spanish then?
Yeah.
Or do you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I try at least.
All right.
I try to speak a little bit every day,
I'm going to tell my wife so next time she sees
you,
man.
She talks to you in Spanish. That'd be awesome. But yeah, so I was in Panama serving my mission, and long story short, on the last month, I got a letter from my parents, and the address said Salt Lake City, Utah, and I was like, "What?"
Oh, okay, all right.
And my dad was like, "We're moving to Salt Lake," and I only been to Salt Lake maybe once or twice before that.
Okay.
And so Salt Lake was cool. I just never thought I'd live here. But then again, nobody in California ever thinks they're going to move from California.
That's true.
And
true.
And so I eventually ended up here, and my wife, she was up here, and we got married, and
all right.
This is history, man. But
dude, that's awesome, man. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. So, you started other bands. What were some of the bands you've been in?
So the very first band I started was called Pauhana, and that was back in my early college years.
Okay.
And that started with a bunch of kids, it's like 4 or 5 guys and 1 girl.
All right.
And but that started in our college days, and that was awesome. It took off. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, right in the middle of everything blowing up for Pauhana, I actually left on my mission.
Oh, okay.
So to kind of dedicate things to the choice that I made, we ended up naming the album, the first album, that called Return with Honor, because the plan was I was going to be leaving, so everybody knew.
Oh, that's cool.
So while I was gone in Panama, man, things blew up, and I was just like, my parents and my sisters were writing me like, "Dang, no, oh my gosh, no!" I mean. My friends from the band were writing me on my mission, and they're sending pictures of them on tour and like,
oh, that's awesome,
Guam and Saipan and like all over the world. It was crazy. And I get these contracts back in the day it was mail, from different from the Universal, what was going on, with the distribution and so it was crazy, man.
Okay.
So in a sense, I was very grateful that I was serving the mission, because there was so much things going on that I almost kind of felt like I was put to the side so I can focus on what I needed to do.
Okay.
And then when I was done, I came back. And when I came back, I think I came home on a Wednesday, and Friday I was back on tour. So that's how
Dude, that's
fast
awesome,
it happened,
man.
Yeah. So it was kind of crazy,
awesome,
man. So, but from there, from Pauhana, then formed another group with some of my best friends. and we started the group called Monopoly All Stars, and so and that started here in Utah. A lot of us came home from our missions,
Okay.
and that's kind of how it started.
Nice.
Started, so
I mean, I have all your albums, Monopoly albums.
Yeah.
I love them. I was just telling him, we're going to Hawaii, and when the album Rhythm and Blues dropped, was my first time in Hawaii, and I was jamming it the whole time.
Oh,
and so, as we're packing up, my wife and I getting ready for our trip to Hawaii, I said, I gotta make sure I got this album in the rent-a-car because we're gonna be jamming it the whole time.
I appreciate that, man. I really, really enjoyed every music project I've been a part of. Pahana was super special because it was first, and the surprise of all the success that it had, and with Monopoly, it was such a unique ensemble of people, that were put together to create that group, and in a sense, I always think back. I was like, man, maybe we're a little bit ahead of our time. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Before our time, because we were playing things that nobody else was playing. We were playing things.
It's very different. Yes.
It was really different. So it's funny now, like, fast forward now, 10, 15 years, listening to the style of music that's out now, I kind of say, man, we had elements of that way back in the day.
It's true, yeah.
So the mixture of R&B and reggae, and I thought it was pretty cool. But I do, in a sense, like I said, I always kind of look back and say, man, maybe things would have been different if we would have came out now. You know what I mean? But
right.
Yeah. But I always believe, man. I always believe that
happens for a reason.
Yep, happens for a reason. Everything in its due time. And so hopefully, our music will stand, last stand the test of time and going from there.
I think it will.
Yeah. So after that, after the whole Monopoly thing, I decided to do something that most people wouldn't do, which is really go after the dreams. And so I decided to pack up everything, my wife, my children, 5 kids at that time.
Okay.
5 kids, and we moved to Los Angeles, and I really started focusing on music, and it was awesome, man. I got right into Hollywood and right into working with record labels and artists and doing a lot of cool things, and so that's kind of where I'm at now. So,
dude, that's awesome, man. Do you have any like musical legends that you really look up to?
A tremendous amount. I mean, I think there's a lot in the Polynesian community. I've always looked at my dad. My dad played a lot of music. My dad was a bass player, and so
nice.
I've always looked at him and my uncles, and a lot of people who I think really blazed the trail in the Polynesian community, like the Jets and the Booyah Tribe, and there's so many people to name that I looked up to them. But from a secular music standpoint, I've always been really moved by the singer-songwriter. People like James Taylor.
Yeah.
Obviously Bob Marley's probably one of my favorite of all time. But people who, when they wrote music, every word count, everything count when they wrote a tune. It wasn't just something that hopefully this will have commercial success. It was like, this is going to mean something. This was going to, and I'm not necessarily talking about political mean anything, but one of the, even one of the artists right now that I've been listening to for years now, but Ray LaMontagne. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
I'm not.
But he has some incredible music, and he fits that singer-songwriter, mold. And and I had a brief opportunity to meet one of my idols, Kenny Babyface Edmonds.
Oh wow!
And that was pretty.
That's
cool.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, man, because you think about his catalog, right?
Yeah.
You think about his catalog
and
what he's written and wrote for not only himself or his After Seven or his brother's group, but for everybody, man.
Yeah.
It's just
he's a legend.
Yeah, to be able to sit and talk with him for a little bit.
Dude, that's awesome, man. What'd you guys talk about? Just music or other things?
First of all, he's kind of a really quiet guy,
I get that impression.
Yeah. He's really quiet, and I think when you work in the music industry, there's a tendency to be a little bit guarded with people that you don't know.
Okay.
And I just I happened to meet him through a friend of mine's, and my friend said, "Hey, can you come down to the studio?" And so I showed up at the studio, not realizing it was Babyface studio.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I walk into this room and there was Babyface.
Dude, that's so awesome, man.
Yeah, so I was just kind of like, whoa, and so I was introduced to him and talked with him, and it was pretty cool, man. There was a lot of people in the studio at the time, but speaking with Babyface, and had some great counsel and some great things that he talked about. But when it talked about came to music business, man, he perked right up, and he was he was like, whew,
dude, that's
man,
awesome.
It was a pretty cool experience.
This is my opinion. Tell me if you agree. 90s had the best R&B.
I think so, man. I think the standard for R&B is in the 90s.
Okay.
The standard for R&B is in the 90s. And it's funny because it's really hard to beat the 90s. And I'm not trying to be biased, man. I really am not trying to be biased because when you heard a 90s R&B song, you knew it was an R&B song.
Yes.
But nowadays things are just kind of they're in this kind of crazy because nobody wants their music to be categorized anymore.
Okay.
That's the hard part about the music industry. Nobody wants to have their music categorized anymore. And because of that, there's no definition either. Whether it's good or bad, there's no definition to what it is. And a lot of times people are trying to create something new as opposed to something genuine.
That makes,
I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
So I think a lot of times
they're trying too hard.
Exactly. Yeah. They're trying to make something new and maybe something that's crazy as opposed to something that's good.
Yeah.
And something that's true and genuine to who they are. I think and I'm not, but I think one of the best R&B albums that has come out in the last couple years, I think it was maybe 5 years ago, was when Miguel first came out.
Miguel's good.
Yeah, when he first came out with his first album, I think that's one of his that's one of the very best R&B albums outside of the 90s.
I have to agree with you on that, yeah.
Outside of the 90s. I'm sure there's other ones, but that's one I would say, when I first heard it, I was like, damn, that's what I'm talking about.
Even if he drops kicks in the audience. Did you see that?
Man, don't be jumping over people like that.
Oh, that's funny.
Don't jump over people like that. Just sing, man. Just sing. We'll leave that to Evel Knievel, man.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
But
okay, awesome. So how would you categorize your music then?
So I do a lot of music because I work with so many different artists and their genre is different.
Okay.
And I do things even like for corporate, and I've done things for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've done things for example, there's a game being developed. I won't mention the game because it hasn't been in the market yet, but there's a game being developed, a board game being developed, and they needed pirate music.
Oh, okay.
It's a pirate theme.
Yeah.
So
like the commercial.
Yeah, for the marketing, the commercial. Man. So as a part of the project, developing music to put for a pirate game. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah. So it's like as a producer and as a songwriter, artist, it pushes me to do things really outside of the norm for me.
That's great, though.
Really outside the norm for me. But if you're asking me, I mean, I just try to put out stuff that's true to me. Okay. When it has me as the artist. When I'm writing for someone else or producing for someone else,
right?
Then it really comes down to a mixture of writing something that's true to me, but knowing that someone else is going to be singing it.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So I wouldn't, for example, if I'm writing for Marilyn Manson, I'm probably not going to be writing something,
about sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I try my best to stay true to myself, and at the same time, make sure I'm mindful of who I'm writing for and who I'm writing
That's
with.
good. That's good.
But a lot of times when I get into a writing session,
Uh-huh.
It's usually we get into the studio and I'm meeting the artist for the first time and we're just vibing. We'll sit there for an hour and just listen to something, or have a guitar and just kind of play chords out and just kind of. And the writing session is a very unique one. It's almost like instantaneously, right?
Okay.
You're going to get something or not.
All right. Yeah.
Right. It may not be like I can't, for some reason, me personally, And I kind of experienced this when I was dating. I couldn't, for example, I married my wife because she was one of my best friends, if not my best friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so going into a creative process like writing music, you kind of have to have a vibe with someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Like you kind of have to vibe, because if you're not vibing with them, then it's just going to be,
That's a good point, right?
It's not going to be very good. Very good.
That makes sense.
When you walk in, I try to go in as myself. I mean, this is who I am: a hoodie, sweats, and a baseball cap.
Love it.
And I've worked with artists who walked in, it was like, studded leather jacket,
right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Versace shoes, you know what I'm saying? And it just, not saying that it didn't, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And it's okay, man. There's kind of this understanding with writers, like, it's okay. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work,
That makes sense.
It's all good, man.
When we talk about categorizing, the album, like I said, Rhythm and Blues, there's hints of reggae, and then there's hints of blues and hints of R&B, and which I actually love that, and that actually my wife didn't listen to. I'm a big reggae fan, and so my wife never listened to it. So that actually was a good transition for her to get into like reggae, because she's like, oh yeah, I like the tune of this. But one of my favorite all-time songs is on that album.
Okay.
Gunshots.
Okay.
I don't know why that story hits me.
Yeah.
There's a story in that song.
Yes, there is.
Is there a real life story behind that song?
It is.
Too?
It's actually so the song talks about two particular people, and man, it's been a long time since I even listened to that song. But that song actually won us an award.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Was Southern California Music. We won Song of the Year.
I didn't know that.
We won Song of the Year with
That's
Gunshot.
awesome.
And it was the subject was about a girl named Kathy.
Okay.
And then a gentleman by the name of Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
And they both were Polynesian members of the Polynesian community whose lives ended early. For me, it was even more close because Kathy happened to be my sister-in-law.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so,
wow.
Essentially, what happened was, like in the story, talks about her raising her two kids.
Yeah.
And, in her situation, she just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and was caught in the middle of an unfortunate situation, a drive-by shooting that, took her life. And so I thought people needed to hear that. And like I said, kind of going back to what I said about trying to be true, I think this song really was kind of like the element or probably a great example of, of bringing real life into what our music is.
Oh, absolutely.
And Johnny was a young man from Sacramento who unfortunately, same thing, went to a party one night and unfortunately was gunned down by a rival neighborhood, and he just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so, we just wanted to bring some awareness to that, and how that has affected the lives lives close to us and how it's affected our community. And so, but I appreciate that, man.
I love it. It was one of my favorite all-time songs. I love that song. The story just hit me. I don't know why. It just kind of hit me. And so I love that track.
Man.
I didn't know you won an award on that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Actually, we won a couple awards with that album and the first album, which was it's one thing to get like recognized by, you get a call from your Uncle Shona or something like that. Like, hey, I love that album, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's a different to be recognized by your peers, like, for, something. So I think with Monopoly, that was the big thing, was like being recognized by, singers and songwriters and producers and stuff like that. So
that's awesome,
that's
man.
Cool.
That's awesome. So what else? You're working on a lot of solo projects right now.
Yes.
So talk about that so people know.
So people say, okay, why did you start the Mighty Agnot? Why did you do that as opposed to just going with Nela? Well, for the purpose of my catalog, I kind of had to keep everything separate.
Oh, that makes sense.
And separate and distinct. Like you mentioned before, right? A lot of people know that I do music, gospel or faith-based oriented music. Yeah. And so that's all under my name, Nela Otuafi, right? Okay. And then when it comes to the secular music stuff, like the reggae and Polynesian community and stuff, I had to go under the Mighty Agnot to kind of keep the catalog separate.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And it's not that I was ashamed of anything. It's just there's a lot of disorganization because they're like, a lot of times people are like looking for when they try to license a song of mine, they would be looking for that and not realizing that it was me.
Okay.
So I had to separate, okay, this is my faith-based stuff.
Yeah.
And then this is everything else, like all my secular music. So
got it.
But with regards to that, I just recently, in the past couple of weeks, I released something that was faith-based. And in the past couple of weeks, I released 2 projects that I've been sitting on for the past several years.
Okay.
And matter of fact, one of them released today.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, one of them released today.
Which one is that?
It's called Steady Rock.
Okay, I'm gonna post this today so people can go and go get it.
And so it's pretty awesome, man.
Where can people get it?
It's on all major digital outlets. It's on
iTunes,
Spotify, Apple Music.
Perfect.
You can find it everywhere. So if you want to look at some of my projects, the Mighty Agnot. And people are like, well, what does Agnot mean? Is that like some
that's the first question
Lord of the Rings, reference or something like that? And the reality is, it's actually, if you take the word Tonga and you spell it backwards, that's how.
Okay.
So I've always been intrigued with when anybody had like the prefix of the mighty.
Okay.
I always that for whatever, it always stuck with me, right?
All right, I like that.
I always loved the mighty boss tones, right?
Okay,
And one time I was listening to this Bob Marley concert live, and they were introduced as Bob Marley and the Mighty Wailers, like that. And it's just like, wow, that was just like, whoa, that's crazy. And so I just always thought about that. I just really, really enjoyed it.
I love that name.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so that's kind of that. And with the Mighty Agnot stuff, it's, you have reggae, and then you have, obviously the elements of R&B, and I'm a big fan of 90s hip hop, and I've always been a fan of 90s hip hop. It'll never go away from me. I think the greatest album ever, or one of the greatest albums ever, happens to be the Fuji Score, and so I reference that a lot. I reference that a lot in the way I produce, in the way I approach things.
Okay.
And people don't realize the magnitude of some of the greatest producers to ever even be part of hip hop. We're all part of that album.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that John Legend was a producer on that album.
I didn't know that.
And they had no idea. People don't know that.
Wow.
But my point is, there's so many great minds that were part of that album that you cannot help but break that album down and look at it as a blueprint to, what you're hoping to contribute to the music world. And so that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And as far as the faith-based music stuff, I just released something 2 weeks ago called Sunday in Tonga, which is it's just an EP of Polynesian hymns.
Oh, nice!
Because it's really something hard to find online.
Yeah.
So I would, on Sundays, I would like, man, I love listening to. If you've never been to a Polynesian congregation and just listen to them sing, and most of the time they have no piano and no organ or nothing, it's just them singing.
Yeah.
And so it's such a soul-stirring spiritual experience that I would try to look for it online, but you can't find it.
Right.
And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So I started
That's
going out and recording it and to put it out there so that way people have it.
I love that you took that in your own hands and said, it's not there, so I'll put it out there.
It's the old saying, if nobody, who do you really expect to do it if you don't do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I've always kind of, had that thought, especially when it comes to my kids. Like, my kids are going to need this in the future.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like, for example, I don't want my kids to hear my music from someone else.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's why 2019 was important for me. Is like, if something happens to me, I want my kids to be able to go to iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, whatever.
Right.
And if they're having a bad day, they can hear Dad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so that's kind of been my mentality this year.
I love that. Yeah. Actually, that's why I record all this. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
This is a great example of it.
It's not just your kids, Nela. It's your great
grandkids. Exactly. Yeah. I don't want them to hear stories about me from other people only.
Yes.
I want them to hear about from me.
Exactly. Because they're going to look at your great-great-grandkids are going to look at you and know you as an old man. Now they can look back at this YouTube video and say,
like, man,
Grandpa Nella's
young buck
looking.
Man, I don't have my wallet on me, man.
but it's true, it's not just your kids, it's your great-great-great-grandkids that's going to hear your music and be like, oh, that's where my passion of music comes from.
Yeah.
Comes from him. Oh, it comes from his dad. Comes from his roots,
Exactly.
And they're going to hear this story.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely right. At the end of the day, what do you want your legacy to be?
Well, first
and when I say end of the day, is when God calls you back.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I really, truly, I just want, and my legacy really only matters to my posterity.
Okay.
And if the world, has their thoughts on me, great, that's fine. But the legacy I really worry about is what my kids think of me.
Okay.
I think it was the same for my father. When my father passed away, I think he was just worried about what his children, his wife, and his posterity thought about him. And so I've, as best as I can, I've always been trying to live my life according to, how my dad would live his life, or according to, what I know is right. So hopefully one day my kids can tell their kids, your grandfather was a good guy. He was a good man. He was, this and that, and he loved his family. He loved his wife. He loved his community. He loved his faith. He loved his friends. And really at the end of the day, I moved to Los Angeles. I'm glad that you asked me this question.
Okay.
I moved to Los Angeles with the goal and intention in mind. I even remember putting this on Facebook, that my goal was to win a Grammy.
Okay.
And I wanted to put it out there. Then I got to Los Angeles and spent 3, 4, 5 years out there. And it became real clear to me, it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. And my focus became very different after that. Because I saw what was required to win an accolade like that.
Okay.
And trust me, this is no knock to anyone who's won the Grammy. But I saw, in a lot of sense, there's a lot of things that I wasn't willing to pay.
Okay.
Because yes, you have to pay the price. You have to be able to do it. And there were some things that I wasn't willing to do, because it just wasn't, with what I wanted to do and with how I wanted to be.
Got it.
And so, Grammy may not be in my legacy, and that's okay. But I've had many other experiences that my kids and my wife, that hold pretty, dear and sacred to me, that will help my legacy.
Okay, I love
But
that.
if you're going out for the Grammy, hey man, Godspeed, man, go for it, man.
Yes.
Whatever your goal is, it just, on my journey, I realized that destination wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
And but the journey really has helped me along. So,
dude, that's awesome.
I'm grateful for the journey.
So if we jump in your car right now, what will we hear?
Shoots, man. Right now, Prince.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been on this big.
Not expecting that.
Well, right now, I'm really big on this whole Minneapolis sound. Like,
interesting.
What they created with Prince, the time, but more importantly, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, that whole '80s Minneapolis scene, that sound.
Okay.
Has inspired me. So what I've been doing right now is just really listening to it and analyzing how they're able to do things, and more importantly, like sonically, trying to understand, how they did things. And so that's where I've been finding myself right now, listening to.
That's pretty interesting.
What about you though, man? What are you listening to?
It's a lot of podcasts, honestly.
Yeah. Podcast is good, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much that exploded, huh?
It is. And right now, some of my favorites, I listen, because of what I do for a living, I listen to a lot of Dave Ramsey. Okay. I also listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. He kind of gets my mind right. Mm-hmm. And I'm enjoying for fun listening to Big Buddha's podcast. we mentioned there. I love his podcast. He's a good friend of ours. And one podcast I'm kind of digging right now, and it kind of leads into music, is Oprah Winfrey's podcast.
No kidding.
She doesn't do the interview with the guest. Yeah. But it's her podcast. She kind of does like an intro and outro, and then the producers interview the guest. Yeah. But they all know Oprah. Yeah. And last week was Smokey Robinson. Okay. And I love Smokey. And he was telling his story. And I don't know if you've heard his story.
amazing. Man.
It's amazing
story, dude.
And about what his mom and dad went through and everything, and what he went through. Like he just, yeah, you know. And then I didn't realize that in his neighborhood, he lived 2 houses down from Diana Ross, Aretha Franklin, The Temptations, and I was like, what? Like, so when you were just talking about Minneapolis, that Minneapolis scene, I'm thinking like, man, Smokey Robinson, Detroit area was crazy too. I didn't even realize that.
Oh, that's why it's called Hitsville. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It really was a community in Detroit, and you know, I've been in Detroit, and I've seen. I haven't gone down to the Motown Museum, but I know the history that comes from there, and not just Motown, but even now that's relevant to now. I mean, with the whole, you know, 8 Mile and the success of Eminem and the whole Detroit underground scene. It's a big music spot, man. Freestyle rapping and battle rap right now, what it is now comes from that. From that underground Detroit scene. And so I think people really need to, you know, check that out if they're hip hop heads, and they really need to, you know, take a look at that. So
that's a good point. Yeah. But you know, if I am listening to music though, because I do like maybe on the weekends I'll put some music on. I really like. What I like, my genres are 50s rock and roll. I love 50s rock and roll. I love 80s rock and roll too.
Gotcha.
90s hip hop and R&B. And I'm really loving, like reggae is my favorite. Reggae is just my favorite. I love putting on my channel, and it's kind of like that. It's actually kind of like that SoCal type of reggae infusion. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like Revolution and things like that, and so I'm kind of digging that. I'm really into that right now too.
Yeah, it's funny because to see the whole surf reggae, California reggae scene explode, man, is it's been awesome. Fortunately, there have been some Polynesian groups that are involved with that whole California uprising.
Oh, so like One Drop out in San Diego.
Yeah, One Drop's a good one.
Common Kings.
Common Kings, I've worked with them, and Tribal Thing.
Did you really?
Did
you? Dude,
Bug
love
and
all
Jay those guys. So they've all, You know, that whole vibe, you know, it's awesome. And you know, the cool thing about it is working with the Jamaican community, and working with Jamaican artists.
All right.
You know, I walked into my first session with Jamaican a little bit nervous because I didn't know if they're like, you know, who's this guy coming in trying to help us or work with us with our own music, you know, type situation. And I wasn't there to help them. I was there really to learn and really to understand the process, because sonically, if you think about music, Jamaica, this small little island in the middle of nowhere, has really took a hold. If you listen to hip hop, pop music, the influence of reggae and dance hall music, all of it is just crazy.
Their drums, you hear that a lot.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And so the Jamaicans have been doing it for the longest time, and they've been keeping true to what they do. I know, talking with some Jamaican artists and members of the Jamaican community, they get a little hesitant, right, when people come to Jamaica or are seeking the help of Jamaican producers. Because they're a little hesitant because obviously they try their best to keep Jamaica Jamaican. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, but with that being said, also the Polynesian community and the Jamaican community, that gap has been bridged with the artists that are out today. Because we come, for example, obviously one of the greatest Polynesian artists ever, Fiji, right?
Yes.
He's done a great job. J-Bug has done a great job. Even Common Kings have done a great job. And just the list goes on and on with artists now today who've been able to work, collaborate with the Jamaican artists and make this unique, unified, sound that promotes reggae music, and so a lot of time people, like I said, we as Polynesian artists, we're very careful not to take credit for reggae music. We're very careful on, not overstepping our boundaries, but to help promote and push reggae music. And most Jamaican artists and producers I've worked with are very grateful for that. So
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was going to be one of my questions, because I know going back to the 90s, I remember a lot of my Polynesian friends jamming Bob Marley and Jamaican reggae, and even sometimes African reggae. And then I've noticed in the last decade, the Polynesian culture has definitely taken reggae and made it their own.
Yes.
And their own style. Because I can easily tell the difference between Jamaican and African reggae.
Yeah.
Some people can't. I'm sure you could.
Yeah.
You can easily distinguish. Yeah. And now Polynesia has their own style reggae, which I love. Yeah. And I love that they made their own. And I'm glad you actually mentioned that, because you're just saying the Polynesian artists give respect and homage to the Jamaican forefathers of reggae.
Absolutely, man. You know, the reality is Jamaica gave us this foundation of reggae music, right?
Yes.
And the Africans have done the same thing, right? Lucky Dubé and, you know, the slaves.
Right.
They've taken that, right? And they put their elements of African music on top of it. And the same thing, we've taken this base of reggae music that the great reggae musicians of Jamaica have given to us, and we've added ours. And the different elements that we bring to the table, obviously the instrumentation of the uke, really different, right? Very different. And then on top of that, the way our vocal arrangements are, our harmonies, are very different, and the way we approach our vocals, very different. And so I think, like I said before, I think reggae music in our community is definitely a staple, man. Yes. It is definitely something that has been good for our community, and we know where it comes from, and we know who created it, and we're grateful that they've given us an opportunity to put a little bit of us in it, a little bit of our element, and still be able to push reggae music to the world. So
I love it,
man.
Yeah, I love it. My daughter's onto it now.
Is
She wants Jay Brooks to come in a concert soon. She's like, can we go, Dad? I'm like, we'll plan it out. Are you gonna be going to it?
Boog's a great guy, and you know, normally when he does come into town, I usually show up to the show. I've been friends with his family for a long time now. His brother is one of my good friends.
Oh, nice.
For a long time. He lives here in Utah. So when he's in town, a lot of times I'll go to the show.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is like a lot of times that when he comes to the show, it's Polynesian promoters who are bringing him.
Right.
Who's working with him. And so it's been awesome. And so when any Polynesian artist comes to Salt Lake, whether it's Sammy J or Catch a Fire or Finn, whoever it may be, when they come through town, you know, we try our best as a Polynesian community to go out and support and show love. And
nice.
But it is a trip, man. The last book show I went to, went out, and usually it's when I see a book show, it's like the Polynesian community with other cultures sprinkled in there.
Yes.
And the last show that we had that I went to, it was like the majority of all these other cultures with Polynesian sprinkled in between. Like it was just to show you how much that music is growing,
really,
and how far it's going, man.
Yes.
It's been crazy, man.
I know, and I love that it's doing that too.
Yeah,
it's calm music. I actually I've got some back problems right now, so I'm just drinking some kava to kind of relax me, and I mean, it's such soothing culture, you guys. It's such soothing culture. The music and everything about it, I enjoy it.
And the crazy thing is, you know, we went to Japan about a month ago, and the way they do reggae music is crazy, man. The influence.
Okay, this is new to me. All right.
Yeah, the influence of reggae music in Japan. Now, Japan and Jamaica have had this relationship for many years. Some of the greatest DJs to ever come out, some of the greatest sound systems to ever come out have come from Japan.
Okay.
But the combination of that culture of Japan and Jamaica and reggae music in Japan, to hear their touch and their flavor of reggae music is awesome. The same thing, same thing in Eastern Europe, Germany, specifically Germany. Germany is a big forefront right now for reggae music in Europe. Italy is now too as well. But to hear, it's funny, I can hear immediately if a production comes from Germany, if production comes from Japan, if something's from the States, something's from even the way they do reggae music in the UK. The foundation of reggae music is there, but the elements are a little bit different.
That's interesting.
Yeah, man.
I'll have to check all that out.
It's really cool, man. And there's no bigger, better place to kind of see how the culture has meshed with other cultures. Is if you have a chance to go check out Sound Clashes, and they're all over YouTube. But if you check the World Sound Clash, you'll see these DJs from everywhere, from Africa, from like I said, Germany, Japan, the UK, the Netherlands, Italy. You'll just see all these different sound systems from all over the world.
Interesting. I'll go check that out now.
It's pretty cool, man.
That kind of interests me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that kind of blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it is kind of mind blowing because, like I said, this little island in the middle of the Caribbean, man, has had this, and it's not just music, man. It's fashion, man.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I think one of the biggest things. There's a couple of barbers here that I go to, that are Jamaican, and when I go and get my hair cut, all we talk about is Jamaican history, Jamaican, culture, and they're like, man, are you sure you're not Jamaican? Are you sure? And I just say, that's just how much love and respect I have for reggae music. I'm just not this person who's going to come and borrow you guys' foundation and try, I really wanted to get myself. And there's a lot of us, man. There's a lot of guys in the Polynesian community who understand the Jamaican, the upbringing of reggae music, how it's created and how it's been, fortified, how it's been sustainable, throughout the years, and the hands that have been able to do that. And so it's been pretty cool.
Talking about the hands that helped build that, it's crazy to think that nearly one man or one family took a big load on their back. And brought it to the world. Yeah,
it's crazy, man. It's crazy, just, the funny thing is Bob Marley, right? That's probably the first name synonymous with anything with reggae, right? Is Bob Marley or the Marley family. But he wasn't the first reggae artist.
Right.
When Jimmy Cliff came out, he just took the world by storm.
Yes.
Because he came out with music, and then he came out with
and they grew up right next to each other too.
Yeah, that whole Kingston region, but yeah, I just think it's I think it's awesome what they've been able to create, and what. And I've also feel very proud to see what the Polynesian community has been able to do with it, and been able to add their influence. And be able to. And there's a lot of great, like I said, J-Boog. You go to Jamaica and you'll hear J-Boog tunes.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's crazy because, like I said, Jamaica likes to keep Jamaica Jamaican. You know what I mean? So, but to hear Polynesians and playing, and I follow a lot of Jamaican artists, and they're shouting out Sammy J, and
awesome.
Morgan Heritage is bigging up, big up to Fiji, and all this. It's crazy, man. It's crazy the love within the community, man. So,
dude, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So if there's a music fan out there, tell them where they can go find your music, and then if there's someone that's an artist that wants to connect with you, how can they reach out to you?
So you can always check out my music. You can look at my secular catalog, which is under the Mighty Agnot, and that's on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, all the major outlets. If you're looking for any of my faith-based music, that'll be under Nela Otuafi, and a lot of my LDS faith-based music is underneath that, and so. But yeah, that's where you'll be able to find me. If any artists looking to collaborate and work, you can always hit me up. Just email me at the Mighty Agnot at gmail.com.
Okay.
So yeah, that's usually a good way to really link up with people, man. Really
perfect.
People, so.
Perfect. And then any last messages you want to tell people listening about anything on your mind?
Hey man, whatever you want to do for 2019, man, go after it. Really. I can't remember who exactly said it and how it exactly was said, but whether you believe you can or you can't, they're both correct.
Yes.
And so if you believe that you can do something this year, you can. If you believe that you can't do something, you're right, you can't do it. But either or, they're both correct. And so I just want to thank my man DVO, man. It's been years. I've known this dude for years.
It's been a while.
I've known him for a long, long time, man. And he used to come out to our shows.
Yes, every show. Yeah. I loved it, man. Really.
Whether it was the hookah or whether it was up in Park City at when it was Harry O's, right?
Yeah.
And so
even the ghettos of North Salt Lake.
Yeah, man, ghettos of North.
I had to trek out there.
Long time, man. So I'm very grateful for. Thank you, DVO. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you, man.
But one love, man. Much love, man. Godspeed and go get it this year.
I love that, man. Keep putting that fire out there. I love you, brother.
Likewise,
thanks, you guys. Catch you next time.
Likewise.